Hey guys, welcome back to the Paladins Alliance. The player break is nearly at a close, and I wanted to have a conversation about a player that has been talked about quite a lot in the top 20 list on HLTV as of right now. 7 different people have now listed Headtr1ck as a player to watch heading into the new season, touting him to be the next Monacy, i.e. the next Simple. And so far, I really wanted to go back and look at the demos that he produced at We Play and the little bit that he played as a stand-in for Blast for Navi. And I wanted to see, is he worth the hype? Is he worth the conversation that all of these players are giving nods to him? And can he really be that difference maker for NIP? And so I wanted to take a look as to what he could provide. We can take a little bit of a look at some of the numbers that he's gotten just outright, and then we'll look at just a couple of demo rounds that I've picked out, slash just have a discussion as to what's good and what can be worked on for this player heading into the new season, because there's a lot riding on his shoulders in terms of pressure as an individual, and also to rise to that tier 1 level as quick as possible with a team like NIP, who have been looking for an opera for quite some time, and I'm sure have spent quite a bit of money to actually get Headtr1ck into their services as of right now. So quickly, I just wanted to take a look at the events that he's actually produced thus far, and you can already see that these numbers are not necessarily Monacy numbers, and Monacy numbers are pretty ridiculous. And to just show you side by side, these are Monacy numbers, right? And you don't see the numbers change when he moves up to G2. It just doesn't happen. Which is probably the most astounding part about Monacy, is that he didn't have a wildly different change in play overall when he bumped up to tier 1. That is just how good he is, and how much of an anomaly he is. But you take a look at what he was able to produce at the Fall Groups Headtr1ck, and it wasn't as impressive, I will say. Obviously, he had a much more difficult time in terms of who he's actually replacing in Simple, and he's playing against teams that he's never played against before. So overall, it is a harder thing to kind of quantify, but that's where the demos kind of came in for me. And so I took a look at We Play Academy League Season 6, as well as the fall groups that he produced. He didn't get to play too many maps in those fall groups at that online group stage, but I still was able to gather just a little bit of kind of basic understanding as to how he approaches the game, his accuracy, whether or not the eye test checks out for him actually bumping himself up to tier 1, and whether or not this move to NIP makes the most sense, and whether or not 7 out of 20 people in the top 20 actually is warranted for this player, very similar to that of Monacy in years past. A common thread between all of the oppers or kind of semi-oppers that NIP tried to play with across all their various iterations was that there wasn't enough proactivity across their AWPs and a willingness to take early duels. And you can definitely see that with a younger player like Headtr1ck with that AWP, he will be very proactive to try to take some early fights because he knows he can win them. So this round isn't very complex by any means, but it just showcases the willingness that he has to just go for more aggressive play. So he mollies off the deep playground position. There's a smoke as well to kind of suggest that there is an aggressive fountain peak, but he goes aggressive down into connector, and he gets offered up a kill eventually. And at this point, he can literally just sit in connector for the entire round, and that's pretty much what he does. His team wins short, his team wins mid as well, and eventually he'll get this last really sick flick here onto Jimfat. So it's a simple 2K for sure, but I think this just showcases that NIP will love this kind of proactivity on the CT side, especially on a map like Overpass, which they've shown a great tendency to lean towards. And Headtr1ck definitely looks the most comfortable, I believe, on this map in particular. So this is another simple round that I've picked out, mostly to highlight Headtr1ck's A4 capabilities and the fact that he has the ability to just kind of change the situations of rounds on a rifle, no less. And I think this kind of complexion is what NIP love. They love an AWP player that can rifle in a lot of situations. They've been hampered by creating makeshift AWPs that if you have Headtr1ck whose primary job is to op, but also has fantastic rifling, I think you're definitely going to have a mix that works specifically for NIP. And yeah, let's just let this round play out just to show that is basic fundamentals on the rifle is also very, very sharp. And you can see here on the A1S, does very good job to track these opponents, does a lot of damage, immediately picks up the A4. NXT, they decide to rotate and go over to the B bomb site. This is where Headtr1ck decides to commit to that instant rotation. It's just crushed with a deagle. He goes down without really anything. And you see the flash that comes through from Mouse NXT. He decides to play with it. And I believe he gets the third from just a blind spray through the smoke there. And absolutely shuts things down. And it just leaves it into a 1v1. And Headtr1ck does get things done eventually. And it keeps Na'Vi in this map. And eventually they win this series and keep advancing throughout the WePlay Academy League. But things like that, just wild plays like that on the rifle as well, suggests to me that Headtr1ck is very capable on the rifle. And this is a great sign for NIP in particular, who love to run 5 rifle setups and much more pacier setups overall on their CT sides and majority on their T sides as well. So the round that I picked during the Blast Fall groups is when Headtr1ck had to stand in for Simple, and this just highlights a little bit of more patience from him and a tendency to actually know how to play these CT side situations, even when you have man advantages, knowing that things can spiral very quickly, especially on the CT side of Overpass. But let's get into it. Basically, Headtr1ck is going to first look for a fight short side, and he'll get it offered up by JT here quickly. And as soon as he gets the shot off, he immediately rescinds off of that position, doesn't want to get traded immediately, but Headtr1ck alongside Electronic with the nade bolt combo gets him another kill. And again, patience here to just stay within the pit and stay alive. I mean, knowing that if Electronic goes down, Headtr1ck's position and the round could be potentially compromised, and this kind of safety secures the round more so. So eventually Electronic says, okay, we've got a flash with us, and we're just going to try to clear this out together. And they slowly clear out all of the B side. And as complexity continues to scale on the A side, they'll gather enough information on the B side that it should be a clean, easy rotation here. So the rotation comes through, and Halzog does get the trade in to net them at least a plant. And again, patience here from Headtr1ck to not get overzealous, to push the smoke and provide something. He understands that there's a flank coming in from Electronic shorts, or sorry, from connector side, and Bit is still on the bank side as well. And as soon as the smoke fades, he posts up, gets the kill on the Grim, and secures the round. So very, very cool, calm, collected play from Headtr1ck here that shows that maybe he can actually have that patience already ingrained within his system before he moves up to the big leagues against an IP. Obviously, he had a full WePlay Academy League season to play through before they actually, before he actually takes the stage for Tier 1. So this is the last round that I've picked out, and we'll jump into some of the other things that I think that Headtr1ck may need to work on. So I didn't necessarily want to just put him on full blast and pick out so many different rounds that I think Headtr1ck can work on. But overall, I think this AWP on the T side is not necessarily up to snuff. And he has some trouble trying to open up bomb sites, just particularly because I feel like he takes a lot of the entering onus on himself. And there isn't as much setup from Na'Vi Jr. As I would expect from something like the NIP side. And I also don't think he'd be entering anyways with the AWP. And most of all, I think that kind of thing can be avoided by just going 5 rifle and sprinkling in the AWP more so here and there across the T side. That it's not the biggest of issue, but it is something that I did notice that I had a real issue with. And then I guess from the eye test as well, I think that there's a big issue with kind of like medium difficulty shots from Headtr1ck. He hit some really, really difficult flicks. He hit some very easy shots as well, but that medium range AWP shot, trying to go for big clips, Headtr1ck isn't necessarily the player that I would put to do that necessarily. You see that inconsistency with Monacy and Simple if you had to make a comparison, but I don't see that as much with Headtr1ck as I've seen across the demos that I watched from him in the WePlay Academy League. Now, that's going to come back to bite him on NIP, and I definitely think it won't be too big of a deal in terms of kind of the upgrade that it brings, and he'll have a lot of time to get acclimated with playing in tier 1. But I'd like to say out the gates that don't expect him to kind of just blow everyone out of the server and just produce results that would just defy odds and expectations. We're not going to have a Monacy against MIBR type clip. I'm not expecting that. I'd love to be proven wrong, but just the eye test is suggesting to me from the demos that I've been watching that it's not going to be the case. And there's still a lot of things that he has to learn positionally that is going to have to be drilled to him. He's going to have to learn the hard way. And overall, I don't think that that's necessarily going to be just Headtr1ck stealing the thunder out the gates. It's going to be a very, very good firepower upgrade for NIP. And I think of all these youngsters, Headtr1ck is a great addition for NIP as an org in particular. I think he fits their playstyle very, very well with how they love to play a little bit more fluid with their gameplay, i.e. more rifle-heavy set pieces. And they have very good rifles on their squad, and I think that Headtr1ck has a very, very good rifle on his shoulders as well, as I showed with a couple rounds previously, and I think that we should keep an eye on that in particular. So I didn't necessarily pick out these rounds, and overall it is just these tendencies that I've been noticing, because it's not like egregious mistakes, right? But these mistakes do pile up at the highest level of the game, and it could come back to bite him, and you could see just a hit in terms of the T-side ratings that he produces. But overall, CT side, it's going to be a huge boon for NIP with the kind of proactiveness that he takes, the ability to also rifle at a consistent level. And overall, I'm happy with this pickup, but I do want to temper everyone's expectations that we're not going to have another Monacy on the cards. I don't want to put him on that pedestal just yet. It's going to be a very good upgrade for NIP, but it's not going to be just out the gates NIP becomes a top 5 team because of this move. And I'd hope that you guys keep that into consideration as we head into the blast groups. But that's all that I have to really say. It's a very short video, but I just wanted to kind of touch on the good and the bad of Headtr1ck and whether or not he's worth the hype. So far, I don't think he's worth the hype that everybody's been giving him, but I think that there's definitely some excitement to be had that NIP is now committing to a full-time AWP, and it's definitely going to help NIP moving forward. And I can't see this being a net negative all in all for the squad. So I hope the Swedes come out on top because of this, and we'll get to see them debut quite soon with the Blast Spring groups on the way. So overall, if you like this type of video, this quicker type of video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll be back with a video very, very shortly. Peace.